Look at him way out there. Got it. He got it already. I barely even twitched it. Look at them all. Look at them all behind us. If you just watch the surface of the water right now, there's just life. And very rarely do we get these conditions. Look at, oh my goodness, they're all over back here. They're just breaking. One of the things that we noticed out here instantaneously, it's very obvious. You just use your eyes and you can see what's going on, and it doesn't take a whole lot of figuring to find out that these fish are, what they're doing is they're bussing on, they be bussing on fry. And I gotta get this one in real quick because they're going nuts back here behind me. I don't even know what to look at. The fish I got hooked or the fish in front of me going nuts. Get this guy in real quick. Look at this, they're all over right here. Look at that. Just chomp it. This is why we came out here. We were really contemplating on coming back and we weren't sure if we should. We were hemming and hawing about it. And that was literally, I think, my first cast. I was gonna start off with a walking bait just to, like, you know, kind of re-familiarize myself with the situation going on out here. Because a lot of times that walking bait can be such a good way to locate those schools of fish. But it doesn't take long to locate them when you have an even playing field out here. You just pull up to a high spot, these fish are just all over. They're all over it. That's the beauty of a calm day, is the luxury of seeing this. And as you can see out here, this is a gigantic lake. And very rarely does it lay down like this. And there's something about summertime, evening, smallmouth, when it's slick flat, and just a little popping bait like that. Just bloop, bloop, spit in a little water, bloop, bloop, bloop. I think a lot of times fish do this, but you just can't see them because you might have like a lot of chop on the water. There's just a number of things that I don't have this reel overly dialed in. Oh my God, look at here. Look at this, you guys. A lot of times when it comes to a walking bait, if you're okay with maybe getting, generally speaking, getting less bites, of course I go to cast and they start blowing right there. If you're okay with getting less bites, typically your quality of bite is gonna get pretty darn good with a walking bait like this. Look at him, I'm right in him. Oh golly, see now that feels like a better one right there. I bet he's gonna come up. Yeah, that's a good fish. Or I might have him hooked in the side a little bit. I've got him hooked in the side. There's some big ones here, we just gotta weed through them a little bit. So I like to alternate, I would say, between these two baits. A walking style and a popping style bait. You're gonna get good bites on the popper, no doubt, but sometimes that walking bait can just get you a bigger bite. Like if you know you're on a lake that has some pretty darn big bass and you know that there's a topwater bite going on and you lock that walking bait in your hand, generally speaking, you're gonna get less bites, but the bites you do get are gonna be fairly sizable. As you can see by the amount of surface activity, They're definitely kind of wolf packing around out here. And the best I can tell is they're chasing really teeny tiny fry. And they're pushing it to the surface and busting it at the surface. And if you look at like the size of my bait right here, like this bait and my popper, clearly, let's see here, I'll show you. Clearly these are not the size of fry. These are much larger than fry, but I got it hung on my shirt. Much, much larger than fry, okay? But I think what happens is those fish tend to think that, you know, this bait is actually trying to get the fry, so therefore they're getting this versus the fry, you know, because when you catch these fish, they're spitting up these little tiny minnows, but they will still eat something a little bit bigger. One of the things that we've definitely noticed when doing this is the importance of like sending out a pretty darn long cast. You want something you can bomb a pretty good ways. I mean, the big ones just seem, they're just a bit smarter, right? They've got more years under their belt, and they know, you know, sometimes when you come through and you might be up shallow here scoping around. Now it pains me to do this, but I do occasionally pause this whenever I do, you know, with conditions like this, I know where the fish are, I know what they're doing. You know, we're up shallow, we're fishing top waters. It's, you know, you don't always need live scope. But for most of the time, especially on smallmouth waters, it's a necessity. That might be a better one. Yep. Look at him. God, it's almost one right after the other. Granted, we're not catching giant ones, but we gotta weed through a few of them, which I'm okay with. This one's not jumping. Staying down, which kind of has me, oh, no, oh, just kidding. I take it back. He's coming up now. Golly. Okay, we gotta take a look at this one. Come here, you. He's got that front hook too. Yeah, I got a hold of that guy right there. Oh. I kind of like that a little more of a translucent bait like this too. I think the presence of it just seems to be a little bit, it's got a little bit of translucent with a little bit of a perch color to it. I think that little bit subdued color, it's not as loud, but like as it gets darker, like literally as I'm speaking here, I might switch to, as you can see, I've experimented with a number of different popping baits down here. But as it gets darker, you know, I'll probably start going to something more dark itself. I just feel like when you look, you know, I do a fair bit of diving, and in clear water, those like a black boat up above your head is just very evident. And along with that, you know, then you're making a popping noise to boot. But if you got high skies and maybe the fish are a little bit harder to talk into biting in the middle of the day, something a little less obnoxious and like visible might get you a few more bites. And smallmouth being such visual predators, you know, they feed so heavily, you know, with their eyes. You know, smallmouth can smell pretty well too, I do believe. But when they're up shallow like this, chasing bait around, it's solely a visual thing. They're just feeding, they're just sight feeding. I'm really just looking for some high spots. I'm looking for rocky high spots. That seems to be where the fish are kind of hanging out. And I can either scope them from time to time or at least hone in on those spots and then come back and fish them. It's a real dark one, little chunk. He's been eating well. So these high spots I'm referring to are just little stretches like this. In around, you know, there's deeper water off here to the south, it gets a little shallower. And then you have like these little, they're subtle, but they're high enough spots. And these little high spots right here are the spots that these fish are hanging out. It's clean, it's not a bunch of weed on it. It's just nice, clean boulders and rocks. And that just seems to be the spots that they're liking to feed right now. Cause you can go down the shoreline and just, you know, go down this stuff and just fish it. And yes, you'll get a few bites, but those, you know, the spots that are really good seem to be those high spots, high clean rock. No weed, just nice clean rock on it. You can see on live scope, like when I'm rolling up to a spot like that, you see it come up. It's 100 feet out and it's like 4 feet up here. We're sitting in 8 feet, but as I pan around, I can just simply see how that spot starts to drop back off. I look out to my left, it's deeper. I start scanning to the right. Oh, yep, high spot right there. And it starts getting deeper again. Well, all this is pretty much high. Like, look at that. Don't even like move the thing. And they start popping it. Look at that. Barely gotta move it. Look at that. Oh. Look at that. They're really getting, oh my goodness. Just that front hook. Sort of like a, I mean, I like those feather trebles, but feathered treble or not, tonight, right now, they're just eating the whole thing. They're not messing around. Nice little chunk, but if you've noticed right here, this little combo, this is like 30-pound braid. Just a good smooth casting braid. And then might seem like a little bit of a longer lead to some, like a fluorocarbon lead. That heavier weight, that's what this is right here, is 15 pound. But that little bit longer shank, I think you tend to get a little more traction with the cup, with that nose, the cup of that bait, with that sinking fluoro out in front of it. It tends to kind of tip that nose forward, especially when I just throw it out there and let it sit for a little while. That longer shank of fluoro just kind of slowly sinks a little bit. And when you pop it, that nose kind of digs just a touch. I feel like you get a little deeper boom. Yeah, this is another nice one. You just start making bomb casts and the size of your fish just starts to increase. Not bad. Well, he's not bad. He's bigger than I thought. It's actually much larger than I thought. It seems like the bigger fish too are in they're kind of loners, where you have those schools. The ones that are actually busting around, they're just kind of the visual cues, I would say. Okay, it's go time. The fish are feeding on top, so it might not always be the big ones that are busting. That clues you into okay, pick up a topwater.